Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you all about the latest from Valkyrie, Fear, out July 24th on Relapse Records. This album has 8 tracks, 43 minutes in length, and this is the band's 4th full-length studio album, first in 5 years. I normally start my album reviews by talking about the album structure. How is it put together? Is it linear? Is it dynamic? Is it a roller coaster ride? How does the track listing work in the overall cohesiveness of the album? All of these things is normally where I start off with my album reviews. For this record, I have to start off with the sound, the music. It's just absolutely dynamic, magnetizing, and mesmerizing all at once. I feel like you have to break it down into 2 different elements, which is the influences and then how it was recorded. Those 2 cannot exist separated from each other. One drives the other and vice versa. They really coexist in a perfect dynamic motion that allows the record to have the soundscape that it has, the feeling that it has, the southern comfort that it has. The first part of it, if you will, I would call it the influences that drove the sound. And that to me is starting off with a bass line of heavy hard rock and then adding a little bit of prog, a little bit of stoner, and definitely a little bit of southern rock into the mix. Now you put all of these into a pot, you mix it, and then the gumbo that you get out of it is exactly what you're gonna get out of the 8 tracks on this record. Sure, some songs will have more of one, less of the other. That's normal when you're mixing different genres, different styles, different approaches. But overall, the album is very cohesive in the way it sounds from the first track to the last track. You feel that there's it's continuous, it's not broken. It has a lot of the same elements on every single song, which allows the album to be very fluid, very dynamic, pushing to different directions, but never losing track of where it is and where it wants to go as far as the overall influences are concerned. Now, as far as the recording side of things, I really like how it was put together. It has a very old school sound to it. It really feels very throwback, very almost 70s, late 70s, early 80s style approach, and how the guitars are put together, how the drums come in, how the bass come in, and definitely then how the vocals come in. So the recording of the music on this album, the recording of the overall sound experience on this record is one that really allows the album to have the magnitude that it has. It really allows the songs to go where they need to go, and most importantly allows the album to have the emotional baggage that it has and be as driven and as cohesive while still pushing in many different directions across all 8 songs. Now we can go into the structure of the album, and the structure of the album is one that to me it felt at least that it gained momentum with every single song. It at least felt like it was progressing. I'm not sure that there is a transition from song to song as far as taking an element and moving it into the next one and then mixing it there, and then the result of that mixing moving it into the next one. I'm not 100% comfortable in saying that that's the case as far as the overall structure of the album is concerned, but there's definitely a growth within the album. And if you look at the first song on the album, Feeling So Low, and then you look at the instrumental track that closes off the album, Exasperator, you could see the growth. And you can see the emotional journey that the album took you on from the first song to the last song. So I feel like structurally the album does have a sense of growth. I'm not sure from a musical standpoint if that growth is there or not. There's definitely an emotional aspect to it that feels like it's progressing as you move along, but definitely from a structural perspective, the album grows as it goes from one song to the next. Now, as far as vocals are concerned, this is a very interesting record from that perspective. Perhaps the first album review that I do, what I will say this: you could remove the vocals out of this record, I don't think you would lose much from the overall experience of the album. Because to me, this record is really about the music, is really about the sound that it has. The vocals are just another instrument. And this has never been more true than in this specific record. The vocals are there to enhance the songs, to give a different vibe, to give a different atmosphere, similar to what you would do with any other instrument if you're including it into a song in order to give that song a specific dynamic. I really felt that way about the vocals. So that's why I say that this is an album that is created as an instrumental record, and then you just sprinkle in vocals here and there throughout the record in order to just give the perfect nuances to some songs and elevate some tracks, give it a little bit more presence, give it a little bit more of a dynamic mechanism, if you will, and enhance the storytelling aspect of the album. But this is a record that's really driven by the overall sound that it has. The vocals are just there for the ride. Overall, incredible album. it's just a really well crafted, well put together, well constructed record. One that, in my opinion, really allows you to just lose yourself in it, and then just come at the end of it and still not knowing exactly how you got there. That's the beauty of this record. You really get lost in it. You say, a lot of people say that about albums, that it's a journey, you're gonna lose yourself in it. While it might be true in some cases, I feel like on this record is definitely the best way to describe it, because the moment you start playing the first song, by the time you reach the last track, I don't honestly can say that I know exactly where I went with every single song, because I was completely lost in the fog of the music, in the fog of the experience of listening to this album. Now, as far as tracks are concerned, I want to start off with Afraid to Live. Very mellow open on this song. It becomes slightly heavier as it progresses. Killer bass line. I love the bass on this song. It's very powerful. It has a very thick approach to it. The guitars are very raw, and the vocals really match that emotional drive that the guitars have. The two really pair up together to really unify themselves and give you this really strong presence across the whole song. The sound peaks at times, and it really gives you a push, and it really pushes the vocals as well. I like that. It's not linear in its approach. It's not like the guitars always sound the same. The guitars have some spikes throughout the track, and the vocals match those same spikes as far as the intensity is concerned. The more melodic guitar riff / solo approach that starts at the middle point of the song and then it progresses all the way to the end of the track is absolutely a delight. It's dark, it's somber, but it navigates through darkness and through brightness. It comes in and out. At some points is extremely dark. You feel like you're in a very somber and dark room, but then as it progresses, as you start to move towards the end of the song, the light starts to come in and brightness starts to fill in the sound and the melodies that the guitars have, and the song becomes a lot more brighter than it was when it started. I really like that dynamic. I really like that growth that the song has. Next, Loveblind. The guitars are so thick on this song. They just have this huge volume to it. And as the song moves along, you just feel that it's almost like it's dragging. It has a very raw approach, and then when you put all of these elements together, including the vocals, it just feels like a ton of bricks dragging itself across the floor. I love that aspect. I love the layers that it has. It's almost a musical lasagna, this track, the way it's put together. It just feels so heavy. Not that it's a heavy song, because it's not at all a heavy track, but the way all these different elements, the way the guitars are on top of each other, the bass, the vocals, everything coming together, the drums, it just feels so thick and so heavy without being heavy at all. It just has a lot of space. It just has a lot of volume. It just fills in all the gaps in the way it's put together. I love this track. I love how it sounds. It has such a specific approach, and it's very unique within itself when you compare it with the other tracks on the record. Last but not least, Evil Eye. This is an interesting track, because from a structural perspective, this is perhaps the most common, or at least the most usual song on the record. It really follows a pattern. It follows a structure. The other songs kind of go in different directions. They have their own way of thinking. They have their own heartbeat, their own soul. This one follows a little bit more of a pattern, or at least a more usual pattern that we see with other bands, with other records, with other tracks. It has a very catchy, hooky chorus, but the simplicity of the line of the vocals on the chorus helps to that catchiness and that hookiness. Perhaps the most hooky and catchy chorus of the whole record. I don't think there's another song built like this on the album that has this kind of simple approach that allows it to be a badass, a killer rock song, because that's what this track is. It's really a killer, hard, heavy rock song, and have that catchiness, that hookiness in the chorus that really magnetizes the song, that allows the song to be a earworm, if you will, and have a very simple approach of versus chorus, solo, chorus, closing off the track. You're not going to get that feel from any other track. This one has more of that standard approach. Having said that, I really like how it's put together. I like how it's delivered, and it fits perfectly. It comes towards the end of the album, but it gives you a little bit of a sense of comfort, because it's a song that you can easily gravitate to, because it's easier for your brain to digest all the different elements that it has, because it's a pattern that you're used to, while the rest of the album does not have a pattern at all. Almost every song has a very different and unique structure that it's harder for your brain to assimilate. It's harder for you to adapt to. So this one, coming towards the end of the record, it almost gives you a sense of of peace, of coming to grips with yourself, and it gives you a little bit more calm in the way you are able to digest this, the last couple of tracks on the record. This is it, guys. This is Valkyrie with Fear, out July 24th on Relapse Records. Once again, let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.